I've bought a lot of stupid things over the years, and over the last year, for a very long time, I felt like one of the stupidest things I bought was the Galaxy Z Flip 3, but as time went on, my mind changed about it, and today I'm not only going to talk about my last year with the Z Flip 3, but I'm also going to talk about the Z Flip 4, how it compares to the Z Flip 3, and what my verdict is on both of these phones. So let's go ahead and get started with my last year with the Galaxy Z Flip 3. I initially really did think that the Z Flip 3 was just kind of a gimmick. You know, the Z Flip lineup, the whole folding phones, at least the flip phones were more of a gimmick. At least the folding phones had a little bit more utility. But, you know, what has my thought been over the last year? I still think it's a gimmick. I really don't think it adds any value except adding complexity, because you do have to still open the phone up. You know, it's just more difficult to use the phone, and it is annoying. Like, say, right now I have my iPad in one hand and have the phone in one hand. So if this phone were to ring, I can't just put my fingernail under here to try to open it, because what would happen was I would end up scratching the display because it is a plastic display. So in order to open this, if you don't have two hands free, you have to do this weird thing with your chin and like open it up like that. And there's no spring to it either. It's a smooth open. So you really do have to push it all the way and then it won't open like this. So end of the day, it is still a gimmick. It really doesn't make life easier in any other way than being cool. So with that being said, it is very clear this is not a productivity device. Samsung tried to market it as that, like it's super cool, you can do this and that, but really it's a lifestyle device. It's the only reason you buy this is because you want to look cool, and there's nothing else beyond that. And unfortunately, I have to say, over the last year, it's not that cool anymore. Like, when I first got this phone, people used to be like, oh, that's cool, it's a folding phone, let me see. But as time has gone on, these have kind of started to become a little bit more common, and nobody really seems to be surprised by it anymore. And I think that just with more marketing and more just foldables being out there, the idea, this concept is no longer new and groundbreaking, so it's not that cool anymore. So if you're just trying to be very cool, it really doesn't do that, at least for me in this last year. And, you know, the unfortunate thing about this phone was, even though it was cool, there were two things that really made it a deal breaker and really made me think I wasted my money, like, as I said at the beginning of the video. Number one was the terrible battery life. This had one of the worst battery lives I have really experienced in a long time on a phone. It just did not get the job done. It was very frustrating. It would constantly just run out of charge, and the standby was just as bad too. So I really couldn't get used to that. And even the charge, I think, you know, I can compromise with here and there, because, you know what, charge it a couple of times a day, whatever. But the thing that I absolutely couldn't get over, and why this phone ended up being not used as much as I wanted to, even though I spent $1,000 on it, was because of the cameras. These cameras were extremely disappointing. They are undoubtedly the worst $1,000 phone cameras I've ever used. And in fact, I want to say that this doesn't even hold up to $400 or $500 phones. Like, guaranteed the iPhone SE will give you better performance. Guaranteed the Pixel 4a, 5a, 6a will do way better than this camera did. It was very disappointing how poorly these cameras performed, and I just really, it was surprising to me, given Samsung literally could have ripped the S21 cameras and just put them in this. They didn't. And the S21 cameras were really good too, so it just surprises me as to why they didn't do that. Not just the back cameras, the front camera as well, not that good. That being said, overall the phone did a really good job. The 120 Hz was nice. The display kind of lived up to what it promised to be. It wasn't too crazy, nor was it too bad. The folding, that crease did increase over time, but whatever. The one thing I will say is, though, the aspect ratio was definitely very annoying, and I'm still not used to it. Apps like Instagram still play stories weirdly on it. It's not a great experience for most apps. That aspect ratio is still just so weirdly unique that most developers don't care. They do not want to even try to, you know, adapt their phones to it, their apps to it. Like, Instagram at least should have done it by now. If Instagram hasn't done it, I don't think most other apps will even care, because, you know, if the might of Facebook is not willing to get behind this aspect ratio, I don't know which other brand will. Let's move on and talk about some of the hardware. So this phone has actually lasted really well. Like, there has been no damage. I've used it caseless for most of the year, and the only real damage, not even damaged, is the screen protector on this phone. So it is a screen protector that Samsung has installed. They don't want you to take it off. They don't want you to replace it. It has started to peel just a little bit on the right corner. So that's kind of the only physical damage of any sort this phone has had. It's been extremely reliable. Now, I haven't dropped this phone, and I am still very scared to know what would happen if I dropped this phone. Luckily, this phone has been pocketable enough and easy enough where I haven't really dropped it. It has been pretty safe and secure. There's honestly no damage to it too. Like, it has fared really well. That matte front glass and matte back glass, not black glass, but it is black glass. So the matte black back glass, okay, matte black back glass, that's a tongue twister, is really good. It has fared really well, and it feels great to hold. So Z Flip 3 did have its moments. You know, it does feel great in the hand. The device is for very premium feeling. So it was an interesting experience for sure. And at the end of the day, I did find one niche for it, and that was having it as a second phone. So it was nice to have a smaller second Android phone that I could carry around anywhere. I usually, I will carry two phones, an Android and an iOS device, and I just ended up choosing the Pro Max for most of the year. So I had a really big iPhone, and there are no real small Android phones left except for this, if you call this a small phone when it's at least folded up. So it was nice to have this small little phone just tuck into my pocket, leave it in a bag, honestly even just leave it in my car somewhere tucked away, so when I needed it immediately I could grab it. So that was a very nice feature of this phone, and that's the only real niche or category where I can be like, oh, do you need a second phone and you need it to be pocketable? This is the only place where I would say the Z Flip kind of has its own little place. Other than that, there's really no reason I could recommend this phone over literally anything else. So with that out of the way, here's the Z Flip 4. And now you might be wondering, well, my experience with the Flip 3 was so bad, then why did you get the Flip 4? I'll answer that a little bit later, but let me start off and talk about some of the comparison points. And let's start off with the fact that they're very similar in size and they're very identical in footprint. The screen is the same exact thing, same resolution, same look, same brightness. It is the same exact screen. The cover display is also the same exact thing, same size, same resolution. It looks the same. It operates just exactly the way it does on the Flip 3 and 4. So there's not a lot of changes. And that is going to be the theme you guys will hear. There is not a lot of changes between the Flip 3 and Flip 4. There is one thing I noticed, and I don't know if it's software or what's going on. HDR content on the Flip 4 is about, let's say, 10% dimmer than the Flip 3. It is noticeable for sure when you have them side by side. If you were just looking at them like that, I don't know if you'd notice it, but when they're side by side, it is unmistakable that the Flip 3, while watching HDR content, does get higher. That peak brightness is definitely higher. However, when watching non-HDR videos, the brightness was exactly the same. So it's leading me to think it's something more software related than actual hardware related, because both of them do have the same exact display. So while there are a lot of similarities, there are two key areas where there are big differences, and one of them is battery life, and battery life is definitely improved. So this has a 3,700 milliamp hour battery versus a 3,300 milliamp hour battery in the Flip 3. And while it doesn't sound like the biggest difference, it's definitely helping in conjunction with that new processor that's in here. They are definitely doing something, because not only am I improved, is there improved battery life, standby time is actually 20% better. And I'm saying 20% because literally that's what happened. I had both of the phones plugged in 100%, and I just left them. They were both, they're set up the same way. They've got everything, same apps, same everything going. They both have SIM cards in them, and I just left them. And I was just watching the percentage on the cover display fall over about the period of a day and a half. And they both were at 100 when I took them off charge. And by the time the Z Flip 3 drained, this still had over 20% left. And like it was 21 or 22% like that, something like that. And that was very surprising to me because they were both not used. They were both sitting there. This phone has not been used that much, so that there's not going to be a lot of battery erosion on that Flip 3 either. So I'm just very surprised at how much the battery life and battery standby has improved on the Z Flip 4. And along with those improvements, we also have improved charging speed. So now this does support up to 25 watts of fast charging when you're wired and 15 watts of wireless charging, compared to the 15 watts of wired charging max and 10 watts of wireless charging on the Flip 3. That's actually very surprising to me that Samsung did not give this a higher charging capacity last year, because their other phones have had it for a while now. So that was surprising to me that the phone was kind of locked in at such a slow charge speed. But it is very nice to have that faster charging speed, because you do need to charge the phone more often than other phones. So let's move on and talk about the display. So the crease on this phone is definitely a little bit more noticeable. Less noticeable than the Flip 3. Now that is something I am a little bit, I can't really say for sure because I have used that phone more, so it has flipped more. It might just be that that's wear and tear on the display. I really don't know. This is my that was my first folding phone ever, so I don't know if that's how it is. So that's my first point of reference now. So if it does happen next year, I will have an idea that over time this does creases do increase. But the crease on this is definitely less noticeable, and I also have to say that the hinge on this phone is just not as nice as it was on the Flip 3. Not only is the Flip 3 smoother, but also there is a lot of play in the, closing, when it's closed, there is a decent amount of play that I experience in this hinge, which is not the case for the Flip 3, which is surprising to me because this is the newer phone. The hinge on this should be stronger than the hinge on the older phone, which has been used for a year and closed and opened at least, I want to say, a couple thousand times at this point. So very, very surprising to me that the hinge on this is not better than the old phone. So since I do have the bespoke edition of the Flip 4, I don't get the matte finish. I get gloss finish on the front and back glass, and that is a big mistake. Don't do that. Buy the normal version because the gloss glass is not comfortable. Like, it's slipperier to hold. It fingerprints and smudges up so much easier, and honestly the finish just does not look as good as the matte finishes do. The matte finishes just pop more, and if you're buying this phone, you're probably buying it because you want to show it off a little bit, and these colors, they just don't. The darker colored bespoke editions don't, so just stick with a normal matte finished device. So the 4 normal colors, which are the pink, I forget one of the colors. One of them is light blue. The purple is the one I was forgetting. And the graphite, they're all matte finish. Go for those ones. Do not go for the bespoke ones that are gloss finish glasses. So if you guys remember, I mentioned 2 things about the phone that are better. And the second one is the camera. The camera is night and day better on the Flip 4. I'll put up some samples and you guys can see just there is a clear difference in the performance of this camera. This is a big upgrade. The camera bump is bigger, and they do have new sensors in this, so the megapixel count remains the same, but the quality is just different. And the internal camera, as far as I can tell, is the same megapixel, but it performs better. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say the new processor is just making that post-image processing a little bit better, or there are software tweaks on this new version that are making it better. Because as far as I can tell, they both have, the Flip 3 and the Flip 4 both have the same exact internal camera, internal front camera. They haven't been changed, so it is surprising that I can clearly tell differences between the Flip 3 and 4's front camera as well. And finally, let's just talk about performance. I'm not noticing anything different. Both of them have 120 hertz. Both of them have very recent flagship Snapdragon chipsets, and they both perform great. There's no stutter, there's no lag. Everything opens and loads very quickly and efficiently, smoothly. The one thing I will say is that, as I said earlier, I am definitely noticing more efficiency on this. Even when using applications, they perform similarly, but I'm noticing that the Flip 3 is going through more battery than the Flip 4 does, so that is very impressive. So wrapping things up, my year with the Flip 3's up. I have the Flip 4. If I didn't like the Flip 3 and thought it was a gimmick, why did I buy the Flip 4? And the reason is that, one, it financially made sense because Samsung offered such a good trade-in deal. I got$900 for my Flip 3. That means effectively I paid $150 with tax for this brand new phone. That just makes sense. And second of all, I bought this phone because it promised to fix 2 of my main issues with it, which were the battery life and the camera. And the camera is absolutely better and battery life is noticeably better. So that, in that term, I am happy with it. I am happy with this upgrade, and honestly, I'm glad I switched from the Flip 3 to the Flip 4. And if you have a Flip 3, usually I never suggest, if you have the previous version, go to the exact next version, because nowadays phones really don't have enough QOL, quality of life updates, to make it matter. But between the Flip 3 and Flip 4, just that battery and camera have such a big improvement. I would actually very much recommend, if you can pick up a good trade-in deal on your old Flip 3, trade it in for the new Flip 4. And if you're considering buying a Flip 3 or Flip 4, buy the Flip 4, do not buy the Flip 3. I would highly advise nobody buy the Flip 3. So that's it for this one, guys. If you have any more questions about the Flip 3 or the Flip 4, let me know down in the comments below. I will try my best to answer all of your questions. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow me on social media. I'll have all the handles right here up on the screen, and of course, linked down in the description below. Go check out some of the behind the scenes of filming and just more pictures of these two phones if you want to. And if you haven't already and want to check out these phones, I'll have them linked down in the description below. Whenever you use those links, it really does help the channel, guys. So if you want to check out either of these phones, go ahead, check them out. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Flip 4 content. Still got some more reviews to make on this, so if you guys are looking forward to those, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.